Right off the top, I want to talk about this. The big news coming out of the NHL, Doug Armstrong and the St. Louis Blues have signed Brian Elliott to a 3-year contract. That leaves Ryan Miller out in the cold after paying, well, what I consider to be a premium to get him at the trade deadline. Bill, are you surprised by this turn of events?
Not really, because I didn't know what, I think Doug had in mind an advancement in the playoffs. It didn't work. He knew that Miller's price would be very high, so he's got Jake Allen, who he thinks is going to be his number one goaltender within a year or so, and he's got Brian Elliott. So I think he's comfortable with his goaltending. I assume that he and Ryan and Ryan's agent talked about numbers, and they don't make any sense in the St. Louis scheme of things, because at the end of the day, if they haven't proven anything, they've proven that they need scoring ahead of goaltending, because the results were the same both years.
Yeah, and Norm, what do you think? If Ryan Miller wins that first playoff series with the Blues, is he still wearing a St. Louis jersey right now?
Not necessarily, because it's been made clear for quite a long time. Ryan Miller's wife is an actress. She wants to be in California. And he's not expressed exactly publicly, but it's no big secret. He would like to be in California. And judging on the performance of the Anaheim Ducks goalkeepers, I think Miller's, got the yellow brick road. I mean, I don't know what the Ducks are willing to pay him and what he's looking for, but there is a perfect fit. They need goalkeeping help, as we saw in their recent playoff. And there he is, Anaheim, 40 miles from Los Angeles. So instead of in LA County, he's in Orange County. His wife, I'm sure, is absolutely thrilled at the possibility. And for Miller, he's going to, a team that in the regular season was one of the strongest. So I think there's a perfect fit there, providing they have a meeting of the minds on the money.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Norm. I think when you look at the situation as it exists, Anderson is questionable. The 22-year-old, I think he is 23. Gibson, who just had a junior 1 year, is 21. And I think that Miller would be the answer, particularly in light of them dropping Hiller's $5 million contract to UFA status. So Miller will have to take what he would consider to be a bit of a whack in the pay department, because they're not going to pay him through the roof. They can't afford to, and still have the team competitive. Because they do need help elsewhere. So, but I still think that, based on the commentary you made, Norm, that is that his wife is an actress, this is an ideal situation. He may take a bit of a haircut just to make it work.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect fit, and you're right. St. Louis didn't take the world by storm. To be fair, I mean, they had some injury problems, but most teams have injury problems in the playoffs, and so yeah, I think I'd be shocked if Bill Miller doesn't end up as an Anaheim Duck.
Well, if he wants to go to California, why not throw San Jose's name into the mix as well? After a complete collapse against the LA Kings this spring, maybe it wasn't Antoniemi's fault, but you got to think that he's on a little bit of thin ice there. Would Ryan Miller be a fit in San Jose, Bill?
Well, that's an extra, how many miles is it? 400
about 300.
Miles?
It's about 300 miles.
It's commuting distance.
Yeah.
You never know, Carlin. He could very well be a candidate in San Jose. I would think that he'll be signed by Anaheim before, though. I think there's a natural fit there, and for an extra $500,000, I would advise Ryan Miller to sign the Anaheim deal. So I look to Anaheim as being the team that he'll end up with, and if I may add, I hope he plays a hell of a lot better than he did for St. Louis in his last 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can chalk it up in terms of those goals, guys, Carlin and Bill. You could chalk it up. I mean, some of the goals were nice, but if the idea is you're supposed to make the jaw-dropping save to help, which you have to if you want to lead your cup to a Stanley Cup final, win the cup, then some of those nice goals we saw from, let's say, the likes of in the playoffs, like a Jonathan Toews or a Patrick Kane, those kinds of goals are the ones in terms of a Ryan Miller. Those are the kinds of saves. You have to beat some of the best in the business if you want your team to win a Stanley Cup. And so you're right. Miller was probably, he wasn't awful in St. Louis. He at times was pretty good, but he sure wasn't, Bill, what they had bargained for.
No, they expected him to be a savior. And I go back to the first of the St. Louis-Chicago series where St. Louis won the first two, and I've not seen worse goaltending by both goaltenders.
Yeah, I think, Miller, didn't he allow, 4 or 5 goals in that first game?
Oh, yeah, and they were just whizzing by their glove, going in everywhere. And now Crawford has been 9-2 since those 2 games. And, of course, Miller is going elsewhere. So Ryan Miller is not finished by any stretch. But I hope, for Anaheim's sake, that they get out of him what they pay him.
Yeah, fair enough.
Could any other teams make a play for Ryan Miller, even if he finds the situation in Anaheim favorable? Is there any other team out there that you figure could make a bank-breaking offer that makes Ryan Miller take pause and say, well, I would like California, I'd like to help my wife out, but there's all this money on the table?
Well, is Washington happy with its goaltending?
I would think not.
Yeah, well, they go from pillar to post on that one. That might be a consideration. I'm thinking out loud as I look at the others. I think he would be confined to the West unless Minnesota decides that they want Miller and drop Brizgalov and give him a shot based on what happens to their 2 injured goalies. They've got a goaltending conundrum that may end up being an opportunity for Miller. But I think Miller has worked this to do what you guys had said he would do, and that is accommodate his wife's career along with his. And it's a nice combination where father at home, not father yet, but just like mom, has to make $5 million while his wife tries to scrap up a feature in some movie.
Yeah, and at this stage, I don't think he's looking to go to a rebuilding team or a team just trying to squeak into the playoffs. He's California to keep his wife happy, and it so happens, I'm not saying that he's going to all 3, but it just so happens the 3 NHL teams in California are pretty damn good, even with a San Jose hiccup.
And are the Blues really losing anything in going with Brian Elliott for the next 3 years, keeping Jake Allen warm in the meantime? When you look at the numbers, Brian Elliott last year had GAA under 2. Admittedly, he was only in the 31 games, but you put them next to Ryan Miller's numbers in St. Louis, even in the regular season. And Ryan Miller, he was not performing, like you said, Bill, the way they expected him to perform. Could this almost be a case of addition by subtraction?
Well, yeah, I don't think. I think at the end of the day, Carlin, they measure their success when the season draws the curtain to how well they did in the playoffs. And the Blues have made no progress in 3 or 4 years, in spite of repeated attempts by management to make the team better. And that perhaps explains why Hitchcock has got a 1-year contract. This is his last 1-year deal. He's gone either at Christmas time if they're not doing well, or at the end of the year if they pull the same El Foldo act that they have for the past 3 or 4 years. So I don't blame Hitch for all of that, but that's reality. That's Ray Shero reality.
And Bill, if I think part of the problem for St. Louis in terms of why they are interested in Ryan Miller to begin with is there's no question at times, whether it was Elliott, Halak, whatever, they've had very good goalkeeping, but guys, I think it's also the truth that one of St. Louis, one of the Blues' issues has been inconsistency with the goalkeeping. A couple of good performances or great games, and then some mystifying performances by their goalies. Is that not the case, Bill?
Yeah, that's obviously what they were looking for. And, in Ryan Miller, I think they made a great deal. They had great expectations, and they should have. And effectively, all they gave up was a first-round pick because Chris Stewart was working his way off of that team like he had off of the preceding 3. So I don't think that, other than a lot of money and a low first-round pick, the Blues really got pinched on this. But their goaltending might get better as Jake Allen improves. And it might be steady as Brian Elliott has proven. But they still don't have much to beat when they haven't won a first round in at least 2 years.